truth behind the hype, where hard science meets effective action to prevent the planned worldwide rollout of a surveillance and energy weapon system disguised as a telecommunications blessing. My name is Michael Henry Dunn. Radio 5G is a joint project of Cosmic Reality and the Sacred Academy of Geoenergetics. You can learn more about that at 5g-know.com. And I'm so glad to be sharing the online microphone today with my amazing co-host, Nancy L. Hopkins, pretty well known to this audience, but just for the record, researcher, author, internet radio host, owner of Cosmic Reality Radio and the Cosmic Reality Shungite Store. As a U.S. Army intelligence officer, Nancy was trained in concepts of electronic battlefield, electronic warfare, where EMF and Wi-Fi frequencies are critical components to war. So, good morning, Nancy. Here we are.
Yes, we are. We've done it. At least I think we are. We're live. We're on the first show. I'm so grateful to have met you and all of the people at SAGE, and to be able to at least get this first initial go for a hub of information on 5G. And to have Mark Steele with us right now is such an honor.
Yeah, I can't think of a better first guest for us to have today. And just to do a little introduction on you, Mark, the Gateshead Council in Mark's area of the UK are seeking to have him actually jailed for asking persistent questions about the 5G rollout in his hometown. But each and every resident in communities across the UK and the entire West needs to be demanding answers from their elected representatives because, as we know, 5G is scheduled to be rolled out across the UK and much of the so-called developed world in 2020. Mark Steele has a background in weapons and weapons systems. He is an inventor, IP writer, chief technology officer at Review Worldwide Limited, technology advisor to Save Us Now political party. He has 35 years of research projects in the energy sector, NEI nuclear research, subsea research, and tube fuse. He's addressing the potential damage to business and the economy from the paradigm shift in current technological developments, and with a particular regard to the lack of established standards that have evolved into unregulated 5G. He explores the lack of critical scientific discourse on weapon systems, ubiquitous introduction, and the ability of such weapon systems to damage real innovation, real business opportunity, and the potential impacts upon the future economic viability of the West. So welcome, Mark, to Radio 5G.
Hi, everybody. It's great to be here. Basically, just great to get the information out. You know, getting the information out was really important to me and obviously to everybody in the world. Unfortunately, the comment before about 5G's coming, I'm going to tell you now, 5G's here. 5G's been rolled out covertly and in secret, and it's been rolled out, as far as my knowledge is concerned, in the United Kingdom from at least 2011 on over. It was planned a lot earlier than that. A lot earlier than that. Because these weapon systems have been used, whether on test or actually across the world for quite a number of years by, let's say, covert operations and on battle space. So the technology most certainly has become more and more sophisticated. And obviously when you've got countries like China who can manufacture it at very, very low cost, you know, where these systems used to be pretty expensive. I mean, I worked on a project in the 80s. I wouldn't like to even put a price on it. Pretty expensive stuff. But I mean, this stuff you can go and pick up in, you can basically pick it up in Tandy now and build your own weapon systems. That's something they don't like talking about. But, you know, antenna design, 5G. Let's just cover what 5G really is. It's technical parameters. Obviously, it's first and foremost, it's battlefield interrogation systems. That was its main purpose. However, in its, let's say, civilian role, in its you know, operating system, it's densification. So it's densification, which means more of everything that went before. So it doesn't matter if it's operating on 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G, the fact that they're actually building it out with billions and billions more antenna that we know currently emit a class 1 cancer-causing radiation emission, namely microwave radiation, that's 5G. Where 5G, if you want to talk about 5G in particular, the real technicalities is its antenna design. So backhauling data from scanning technology and the design of the antennas, and how the design of the antennas changes from 4G to what's called a collimated signal. It's what's called a direct energy weapon. It's the sort of thing that if you wanted to attack an embassy somewhere in the world, you'd sit in a van a couple of miles away and fire one of these direct energy weapons through their concrete or through their brickwork. And if you knew where the recipient of the emission was going to be, obviously their mobile phone's quite handy for being able to tag people, you could actually target them in particular. So that's what 5G is. And 5G is absolutely nothing to do either with 5 gigahertz or a communication system to humans. Communication system from machine to machine, maybe, but that's a scam. So the autonomous vehicle thing's a scam. Electric vehicles are a scam. The whole thing's a scam to roll out what I'm going to tell you is a weapon system, because that's all 5G is. Nothing more, nothing less.
Yeah, that's what we're seeing in the video that you recently shared. In what Nancy and I were talking earlier could be called a death zone, where the birds are nearly disappeared. The insect and plant life, even the worms in the soil. Just seeing you driving through that death zone, 5G blanketed territory is something that was just very, it's affecting. You can't ignore that. Can you share with us, what that's like? I mean, this technical information is critical, and obviously there's so much more we want to explore about that. But just on an emotional level, because we are trying to alert everyone to the full reality of this, not just as a surveillance device, as an energy weapon system, but as an attack on life itself. Can you share with us, what was it like for you to be in that environment?
Well, what actually happened with me, the closest antennas to me are about 50 meters away. And obviously 5G's densification, these particular antenna are 5Gs for the high gain dielectric lens targeting acquiring antenna. So specifically all 5G. But the background, let's say the scanning radiation levels, we're measuring minimum radiation levels in people's bedrooms and homes at 600 millivolts. I'm talking minimum here. The Council of Europe 1815 resolution says it should be no more than 200. The Bio Initiative scientist report states it should be no more than 30 millivolts per meter squared. So we're measuring 600 millivolts per meter squared, which is 3 times more than the international courts have said is safe. So it's in breach of the building codes. And this is what talking a minimum here. I've measured in people's bedrooms. I had a taxi driver not far from me. He's actually LED screen in his TV in his bedroom flickers at night when it's not on. There's that much energy. I measured the radiation in his bedroom at near to the LED screen when it was off, and it was 3,500 millivolts per meter squared. That will kill you. That will kill a person, because this is overburden of radiation. I mean, nobody wants to live under high-powered cables. I can tell you now that the toxicity from that particular signal, and the fact that these signals at 868, it's sub-gigahertz range, by the way, for the scanner, in that sub-gigahertz range, this is experimental. It is in breach of the Nuremberg Code. It is absolutely an indictable crime. 5G is an indictable crime. Fact. No ifs or buts. Senator Blumenthal, at the recent the recent congressional hearing, has heard from the FCC, the FDA, and all industry, and they have admitted that there is no research, no safety research at all. Now, I know why there isn't. And the reason why Senator Blumenthal asked this particular question, there isn't any research. And the reason for that, it's like asking if there's research to show that a 7.62 round is safe when shot at a human. Well, it isn't, and there isn't any research to show that, and there's neither any research to show that 5G technology is safe to humans or the environment, because its primary function is a weapon. So it's not safe. It's in breach of the Nuremberg Code, absolutely an indictable crime.
Well, as an indictable crime, the question comes up right away, of course, all right, where does that crime get indicted? What venue of justice, can actually be approached effectively right now, to prevent this? I mean, you'd love to see it tried in an international court, the International Court of Human Rights, International Criminal Court, but in terms of what is enforceable, what can actually stop this, we'd love for that to be a focus for us today. A lot of Nancy's audience that's coming on board with us with Cosmic Reality Radio today, through Nancy, because of her background in energy weapons technology, they're aware of a lot of these facts already about the nature of 5G, and what we'd love to start to focus on. What are the effective actions we can take? How can we stop this? What's been effective in the UK? What do you think would be, the best and most effective means for us to alert people out there of how we can effectively combat this? By the way, before you answer that, let me just say again, we are putting together a lot of these resources on our 5G radio website, which is at 5G-know.com, 5G-know.com. But, you have been at the forefront of the Stop 5G movement in the UK. So we'd love to hear your thoughts on, what are the most effective means, especially for us here in the US, on the local level, municipal, state, federal. What do you see as some of our most effective means of actually stopping this or rolling it back?
The best way to stop this in its tracks is to hold the people who are running it out to account. And how we do that? My local authority, obviously, when I started making information available to the general public, and I always encourage people to do their own research, by the way, because what I do tell people, it is absolutely unbelievable. So consequently, it's always best for people to do their own background research, whether it be Brundtland Weapons Systems or, Environmental Health Trust. Do your own research, and obviously I can point people in the right direction to show them exactly where to go. And they could have watched a number of our videos at the Save Us Now political movement party. However, Google have decided that channel that is explaining the technological humanitarian crime of 5G is a little bit too, let's say, extreme for them. So they've actually pulled that political channel down. So that Save Us Now, the Save Us Now party, I'm a technical advisor to that political movement, where we're demanding that these technologies be rethought out, because unfortunately the political class are corrupted to the core, and consequently nothing's being done on the ground. So what we've decided to do is to amass a number of people, wake as many people up as possible, to bring our resources together and get these what I'm going to call criminals into court. Now, Gateshead Council took me to court to try to gag me in the first instance in a civil case. They said I was frightening people by telling them that this technology will kill them.
Can I interrupt here for a minute, Mark? When you started out, were you vocally going to politicians, or were you just talking to people? How did you end up interfacing with the court system?
How it all came about, what actually happened, when I actually worked out what they'd actually carried out, I knew it was illegal, and I knew it was a weapon system pretty quickly, because obviously in the sub gigs it's long range radar. So that was a bit of a cheeky, illegal humanitarian rights crime, because obviously they're scanning your home. And I thought, that's absolutely terrible. And then what happened? I found out later on that it was in fact not just a scanner, but a target acquiring weapon system. So that was pretty amazing. So what I did in the first instance, when I found out it was a scanner, and I knew it would be pretty lethal, I measured the radiation in a number of people's homes, and then I found out that the levels were outrageously high and would really be pretty illegal, and a lot of people would die. So I wrote the council in private, didn't do it publicly. I wrote them and said, look, this technology, I don't think you understand what it is. I believe it's extremely dangerous, and I want you to have a look at this science, because if you don't remove it, what's going to happen? You're going to start to see an increase in stroke, cancer, heart attacks, deaths, children developing funny cancers and stuff like that if you don't remove it, because we'll have all the published peer-reviewed science that shows that this type of radiation causes those things. They wrote back to me and said, the science, now we're talking about Ramzini, NTP, Harvard, I mean some top institutions, by the way, and some leading scientists in the world. Gateshead Council took it upon themselves to write back to me and state that the science was pseudo, that there was no increase in stroke, heart attack since they rolled the technology. Because when I first came across this, it was in 2016. But it had been rolling it out since about 2012. And it hadn't come to my near locality till 16. So we looked at the epidemiological data from the rollout of the technology, and lo and behold, I was correct. Now, what happened? The council wrote to me and they said that the data, there was no increase in stroke, no increase in cancer deaths, no increase in non-communicable diseases, because obviously this radiation causes an effect on the immune system, etc. I mean, it is very, very detrimental, and especially at the levels we were measuring. They said that wasn't the case. They lied. They actually sent me evidence in a communication to say that these increases they've actually had since the rollout of the technology, and the information we have up to 2018, they have actually had a near 25% increase in stroke alone in the area. So we've calculated that they've murdered some 500-600 people as of today in relation to, epidemiological mortality rates. You can basically follow them on a chart. Well, mortality rates had been dropping significantly in the gated area until this technology was rolled out. So then we'll see a sharp increase, and I mean the stroke increase is inexplicable. A near 25% increase. Come on, and we know that this microwave radiation causes an increase in blood pressure, damages the blood-brain barrier. It's a bit of a smoking gun. So we knew about this, and obviously I wrote to them, like I said, didn't make a fuss. I believed they'd made a mistake. They came back and totally lied and refuted what I'd actually said. So that's when I really started to get exercised. I started speaking to local councillors, speaking to local MPs. Once they realised what I was talking about, that's when it got really serious. They fabricated a crime against me. I can't really talk about that because we've got the appeal on the 20th of March, where I'm appealing against the sentence and conviction that I received at a court. I can't even tell you what happened there, but believe us, it should come out in the Crown Court. And they then, in between that, they then laid a civil claim against me to say that I had to gag me because I was frightening people. They said there was vulnerable people terrorised by the statements I was making, by some of the videos I'd made, and that I'd mentioned the council that they'd be going to prison, and this was genocide, and this was Nuremberg all over again. And, those type of things on social media started making myself busy. I then went to the council, where I stood up at a public meeting and I laid out to all those councillors the facts in the case. The chief executive tried to shut me down. The mayor was shutting me down. I'm a pretty abrasive sort of person. I'm not shut down very easily, and I do not scare. I've had police officers at my home. I've had threats to kill. I've had smashed windows in vehicles. I've had all sorts of things. But believers, I know what that weapon's capable of, and I do not care. Most important thing is to get this weapon system stopped. So then what happened, we went to the civil case. The judge obviously realised, Gateshead Council said I was a conspiracy theorist, there was no merit, everything I'd said them was pseudo. Absolutely unbelievable. So by lunchtime, after the judge had basically been fabricated and lied to by most of the council's officers, etc., where they'd fabricated quite a bit of evidence to try and get me into as much trouble as they possibly could, but it over-egged it to such a point where it was just unbelievable. The judge got pretty sick, and then after lunch he came back. Well, by this time he'd read my skeleton argument, as well as he'd looked at the science in my defence bundle. And that science, Ramzini, National Toxicology Programme, Harvard University, he came back and stated to Gateshead Council and warned them that the 5G risk must be debated. He also told them that I was technically competent, an expert. That's what that means in law. He said I was an expert, and that Gateshead Council had to listen to me and open up the debate. Since then, they've then tried to take me back to court. I'm waiting for another court date so that they can commit me to prison on other trumped-up, fabricated charges. So they're running for the hills. I can understand why. Because 5G most certainly is an indictable crime. They are absolutely doing everything they can to cover it up. And that's where we are. So what the next plan, as you asked before, Michael, the next plan is to raise the resources for our legal team to go on the offensive. Because obviously I've been on the back foot, been attacked, basically gang stalked by this local authority using the police, using council officers, using taxpayers' money to attack me, an honest citizen trying to bring to the people's attention this crime. The LED streetlights that they've rolled out, because obviously LED street lighting is part of the 5G infrastructure. It is the carrier hardware for the antennas so they can get the densification. Those LED streetlights have only been in Barcelona less than 3 years. Barcelona and Exeter University have just carried out a study to show that they are not only is the 5G lethal, but the LED streetlights, the pulse-modulated blue phosphor-coated lights, these are the ones with the blue haze, without a diffuser, have increased the breast and the prostate cancer in only 3 years. I can tell you now, the epidemic from those LED streetlights roll out in Barcelona is 25 year away. 25 years to hit peak epidemic from the recent 3-year exposures. So we are going to see millions die, and I mean multiples of millions die across Europe from the rollout of this experimental LED street lighting alone. Apart from the 5G, but it is 5G because it's the carrier for the transmitters. So the case that we're gearing ourselves up to today, I've actually got a crowd justice site. It'll be ready on Monday. I implore everybody who believes in the rule of law, freedom, democracy, and the future of our children is to support it. Support that so that we can bring these monsters, I'll give them their real name, monsters, because that's what they are. You've got to remember, every MP in the locality, every councillor from different political persuasions here have orchestrated a campaign against me. God knows what's happening, and God must know what's happening because he most certainly has my back in this, because believers, I think I would have been murdered by now. And for some inexplicable reason, I don't believe that it can. And I believe it's because God Almighty has got my back. Because if you think about it, this was an experimental test area which obviously the council have denied. I'm one of the leading experts in the world, which unfortunately for the council is a bit difficult. They're taking me to court has caused nothing but has actually highlighted our campaign. So the reason why most people know of me is because, if they'd left me to one side and just pretended I was some crackpot and hadn't took us to court, the fact that they took me to court legitimized the whole thing. Now, Google once again, they've took down the Save Us Now political movements YouTube channel. All that's happened, people now know that the information was on there was so on point and correct that the technology companies have had to get rid of it, because obviously in that I talk about the 5G autonomous vehicle link-up. I talk about the LiDAR systems on the top of the cars that are driving around California and Los Angeles as we speak that will blind people using the LiDAR. LiDAR is a class one laser, not extremely dangerous, but can you imagine one coming up behind you in a vehicle? You have 3 mirrors in a car, so you increase that focality. It's directed at your eyes. So you've got a car traveling up behind you with a class 1 laser. If I shine a class 1 laser in somebody's eye, and this is in the visible spectrum, I'll be arrested for assault. These are operating in the non-visible spectrum, so consequently you can't see them, and they do more damage.
Mark, I have to interrupt you again because I'm not sure what you're exactly talking about. Are you talking about the autonomous cars?
Autonomous vehicles, all the autonomous vehicle issue, the signal systems, where they're really problematic. Do you know radar, power density radar, if you're traveling not at speed?
Okay, wait, let's just stop, because this is a concept that I think we have to expand a little bit, because I think that people have to really grasp the full consequences of allowing this technology anywhere, because you've got an autonomous car that does not have a driver. So the system is being controlled by what?
Well, the system's controlled by 5G. That's the whole.
But is it a satellite thing, or are they using the 5G network to be able to do this?
Got to be 5G network. You see, the issue they've got with satellites, if you get inclement weather, you get an issue with the weather, all of a sudden your autonomous cars, it would bring a city to a standstill. So the 5G network is specific. The 860, I don't know what it is in the US, but it's an 868 part of spectrum that they're using here with a dielectric lens. This is the scam, by the way, because obviously it's really a weapon system, but it's masquerading as something for an autonomous car. The autonomous car thing is a complete and utter fraud. I'll tell you how I know. The radar of one vehicle, right, at speed, so your power density from the signal systems from an autonomous car will prove to be a problem to another driver. Because obviously he's got 3 mirrors in his car. The radar catches it into those mirrors. It's directed at his eyes. So whether it's a LiDAR cross system or radar, other signal systems.
Okay, let's slow down for a minute here, hon. Okay, so because I mean, I know this stuff, and I'm having a bit of a time trying to. Okay, we've got system which is, let's say, 800 feet apart, that you've got another antenna system, and so the car is passing, and the car is getting its directions and its control from these various 5G systems that are every 800 feet down the road. Correct?
Right, that's correct.
Okay, so the signal that's coming off of this 5G in order to maintain the speed and control over this car, it's got a signal that when it hits a mirror, it then becomes focused, becoming more intensified, and now you've got maybe 3 of them hitting the driver who is following this autonomous car, so that they are getting signal strength that will operate a car now 3 times into their eyes. This is insane.
It's insane. Exactly, it's insane. Absolutely insane. I spoke to a guy. I did an article for a guy called Mark Hinchcliffe, motorbike writer in Australia. because obviously I'm really concerned about motorcyclists. You know, they've got no protection from these signals on the road and from radar, etc. And, you know, we all know about police officers who developed cancers from using radar. Well, if you put radar on all the vehicles on the road, and that radar does travel directly through most vehicles, unless there's some type of sheen or finish on the car to reflect it back out. But the mirror system in your car, they're directed at your head and your eyes. So, you know, I mean, it is absolutely insane. And there was a guy commented, he was in California on driving down the road on a Harley or whatever. And he said he got off, he saw one of these vehicles coming up behind him, didn't think anything of it, had a small white dome on the top. Well, that's most certainly a LiDAR system. And he said he got off at the other side. His eyes were really, really sore. He went to what we call an optician here. And he went there, and the guy said he was bleeding in the back of the eye. I'm pretty sure what caused that, because obviously it's speed. The power density of the laser system would basically, at 70 mile an hour, would have to be significantly higher than the class 1. You're probably talking about a class 2, class 3. Class 3 put your eye out. Will actually put your eye out, will damage your eyesight. But not only, I mean, so if you think about it, we're all travelling down the road. Let's say we've got 50 cars on the freeway. Yeah, I think that's what you call them in America. We call them motorways. You guys call them freeways. But let's say we've got 50 vehicles on a freeway, and they're all bouncing LiDAR and radar. It's signal systems all at each other, and you've got these 5G antennas every couple hundred yards bouncing signals down. The toxicity levels on the motorway will be or the freeway will be so high, be too toxic for humans. In fact, if anybody wants to look at all the new weaponry for the battle space, you know, the autonomous weaponry that was developed, the reason for it is the toxicity on the battle space is so high from these phased array signal systems and collimated signals. It's so high that, you know, you can't survive in those environments. So consequently, that's the whole point of autonomous weaponry and weapons platforms now. So you've got, you know, the Russians are making autonomous tanks. We've got the US making autonomous tanks. Everybody's making autonomous because soldiers, the toxicity from the same signal systems that they want to try on your motorway, you know, whether it be, I don't know, there's a few large companies out there who are trying to roll this stuff out. I mean, it's like electric cars. Who would buy an electric car? I mean, come on, let's be honest. If somebody wanted to sell you a home and it was under one of these large electric overhead power grid cables, you'd think twice, wouldn't you? That would be a pretty large discount. I definitely wouldn't want to put children in that home. But so why would anybody be stupid enough to drive an electric car? I mean, electric cars have only ever been tested for very short periods of time for the immersion, the radiation levels from the engine and the battery in the vehicle. And we know of the levels of radiation or you know, the fit within the international regulatory guidelines. Well, international regulatory guidelines are a joke. In fact, the people behind ICNIRP are criminals. They are most certainly criminals because the ICNIRP guidelines only apply to thermal impact. Well, we know thousands of times, tens of thousands of times less than that, there's significant biological damage from radiation signals. So consequently, ICNIRP guidelines are absolutely useless. The NTP study showed that to be, as a matter of fact. The Ramzini Institute 10-year study showed that that was a matter of fact. These guidelines are absolutely a complete waste of time. So who wants to sit in an electric car that your government's basically forcing you into? You might knock 20 or 30 years off your life expectancy. Well, people probably aren't going to get their pensions anyway if we let 5G get out. So 5G must be stopped. It's the first port of call, let's say, to roll back this killer. I think they call it killer technology. That's what I think in plain sight, isn't it? That's the joke, isn't it? Killer tech. So anyway,
Mark, let's get your breath here, because You know, what we're presenting here and what I've been presenting and you've been presenting and thousands of other people now approaching, you know, really substantial numbers are saying that there is a group of people who are so insane, that they would develop a weapon system to control and kill off the population of the world. Now, this is a big leap in understanding reality, because we can look at Germany and we can say, oh, it was just a group of Nazis. It was just a group of people, not a big group, a small group. We're talking about an entire technological system that is so massive, that is being run by millions of people who are essentially doing, you know, they are running the death camps.
Yeah. Well, I called them there. It was a guy said to us the other day. He said, "Well, who?" Because I said, "Well, you know, they really have made a mistake." And he goes, "Well, who's they?" I'm going to tell you who they are. They are the people that do as they're told. They're the people that did the homework. They're the people that keep their head down. They're the people that don't speak up. The people who know that they're doing something wrong but don't do anything about it. That's who they are. And the people behind this are the same people in the death camps. This technology was moved to the USA under Operation Paperclip. It's the same experimental technology. It was the same experimental signal systems that sterilized people. It's the same technology. Obviously, it's a lot more refined, a lot more sophisticated. It's had an awful lot more money put behind it. And obviously, manufactured in China, cheap as chips, I think they call it. It's in everything. So there are safe technologies out there. I am a technologist. What I'm saying to people and anybody listening to this, on Monday, we have a crowd justice fund. I'm putting it out. I'll send you all the links to it. We have to raise, because obviously this is a test case. And you've got to remember, the government here are going to fight like cat and dog. But what we still have in the UK is a British judicial system. And even though it may have been corrupted and potentially could be corrupted, this is our fight back. We are fighting for our lives. 5G is a killer. It will kill. The LED street lights, which is part of the 5G grid, will already kill from the current exposure millions and millions. I'm talking tens of millions here, anywhere where they're rolling it out in Europe. All right. The optical radiation is experimental. It is lethal to life. All right.
Okay, let's stop again, because you sent us a video that you had done just driving down the streets in a 5G neighborhood. Yeah. It's only about, I think, maybe 4 or 5 minutes, right? And 7 minutes, I think. And I have to tell you, and I've been at this for 40 years. Okay, I understood it way back in the 70s. Now, even though I am, you know, should be a little bit hardened by, you know, what I know, when I saw that video, I was creeped out beyond belief, because I'm energy sensitive, and you're driving through this area, and you're pointing out a 5G LED, look at it, it's daylight, it's blinking, it's, you know, and you're talking about it. And you kept saying, and you don't see any birds, you don't see any birds. Well, there's a big bird. Oh, it's sitting on one of these things, it's a dead bird, you know. And I'm going to tell you that when I'm looking at what you were showing me, that video, I felt no life whatsoever. It was so dead. There were no bugs, there was no worms, there was no nothing. It was a dead zone. How are you existing in this? How can you possibly function?
Well, humans are hard as nails. They've been trying to kill us.
I guess.
Yeah, humans, we're pretty... Well, you know, God's creation, He's not going to just let them wipe out. You've got to remember, we win this. I mean, you know, they've tried this this final solution thing. They tried it in 1940. Well, we're back to where we are again. It's just, you know, it's a cycle of, let's say, evil versus good. So we're back to evil. We've had the evil, you know, we've seen them all before. It's now time for the good people to rise up That's the whole point of the Save Us Now. Save Us Now was an idea. Basically, I woke up one morning, we're really concerned about the whole political system here. I'm sure America's got the same issues. I do think you may have somebody helping the job there a little bit at the minute. I'm not going to mention his name, but let's just wait. The jury's still out. The Save Us Now was our idea to sort of get people to start to focus on not supporting the normal political system, because the thing with Save Us Now, it's not left-right, it's not red-blue, it's got no, let's say, ideological sort of dogma. What it actually is about, it's about mankind, it's about all of humanity, and it's about the rule of law, because the rule of law that was passed to man, right? Because obviously man has dominion over the earth, and earth was actually developed. Well, God gave man dominion over the earth, and the law is actually based on the betterment of mankind. So if we get a law that's, not for the betterment of mankind, we can repeal it. And if we get a law that we think's a really good idea and we're trying, it doesn't work, we can repeal it. But if we can get a law that we think we should keep because it is for the betterment of mankind, then we keep it. So the Save Us Now movement is all about the rule of law. And what we've got to get away from, the divisive left, right, they're smoke screens. Humanity's moving on. Mankind has got to wake up to the fact that he's been had. He's been rolled over. The whole thing's it's a Punch and Judy show. While we're watching the show, it's a bit like the Romans did exactly the same with the Colosseum. It was all a bit of a show, like a lot of the sports stuff. Let's keep the distraction to the sports. Let's keep the real politics to the law. The law can protect mankind, and most certainly in this instance can protect mankind from these criminals. Because make no mistake about it, 5G is definitely an indictable offence. If anybody goes to Save Us Now, party.
Yeah, actually, Mark, excuse me for cutting in a little bit here. I so appreciate what you're saying about the rule of law. That's been an area of focus for me for the last 6 years, and particularly when it comes to political persecution, such as you are now going through. And I'd love, for us to be able to highlight that link to support what is needed for your case going through. There's an international covenant through the United Nations on civil and political rights regarding targeted prosecution for what are actually political, targeted in what appears to be a trumped-up case in order to silence you and make an example of you for speaking out with hard science on this covertly rolled out surveillance and energy weapons system. It just so happens there is the United Nations International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, Article 26. All persons are entitled without any discrimination to the equal protection of the law, and states are obligated to protection against discrimination on any ground, such as political or other opinion, national or social origin or other status, etc. So, this is never committed openly, this kind of political persecution. It's done covertly, but when there are clear, political elements in place, such as there are with you, when they have, as you say, they have exposed their own agenda by targeting you. They have given you more publicity. They've given more publicity to Save Us Now. They have, and it's amazing to watch this backfire over and over again. But I do just want to point out, to people that if somehow we can, actually implement the rule of law, restore the rule of law, particularly with regard to international human rights law, that is, it's encoded in UN conventions. It is, obligatory on the part of all UN member nations who are signatories to these articles. So, there is strong basis for exposing this as political persecution. So I just want to support you in by bringing that up and pointing out that we really do need to do everything we can to support the campaign to expose what's the targeted prosecution that's happening here.
I really appreciate that, Michael. I appreciate everybody that gets involved in what I call getting skin in the game. People really do need to wake up and see what's going on here. Fortunately for us, Gateshead Council started the attack on me, and like as you said before, they've actually highlighted what they're about. So that but let's say a lesser man or somebody who didn't have the support of God Almighty may have crumbled under the pressure. A lot of people. I am a pretty robust character, as you can tell by my demeanour. I don't scare very well, but I can tell you now it's been horrendous for my family. My wife in particular, they feel under threat. I've had, some of the videos of the police coming to me home team-handed. I've had gangs of council people, employees coming to my home and basically fabricating and making statements to police, total fabrication and lies. An honest police officer, believe us, I'm pleased. I'd be spending a long period of time now in a prison cell if one honest police officer had, in fact, lied. He didn't do us a favour. What he said was he didn't hear what somebody said he'd heard, which then made that guy's testimony pretty not worthy. But if he'd actually supported this chap, he didn't deny that he knew the guy didn't say it, and we had video evidence as well that supported my position. But that sort of thing, this is just unbelievable. How, they can use taxpayers' money to pay public servants. That's who these people are. These are public servants who we pay to do public good. And they would actually try all of these shenanigans and what are really illegal activities to bring me to court, basically to shut me down from telling the truth.
Mark, do they not think that they're going to die too? What's their problem? You made a statement on I think Mona Radler's show concerning. Because I think she asked you, well, isn't it, or somebody asked you, isn't it possible, how can these people that know as much as you know about the technology, how can they justify what they're doing? And then you gave a response because you had asked somebody who, you said to somebody in that position, don't you understand what's happening? And you gave a very, very important response that this person made. Do you know what I'm referencing?
No, I can't. Go on, you just remind us.
Okay. What they said to you was, well, yes, it may kill off the old people and the weak people, but the rest of us will be all right.
That's it. Yeah, I remember that. That's not the only one. I actually got a whistleblower who told me this was going to kill the disabled, and it was going to free up, a bit like the eugenics that the Nazis used.
Well, that's how they started. That's how the Nazis started. We're going to take these mentally, hurt people, and we're just going to get rid of them. We're going to take the homosexuals, and we're going to get rid of them. We're going to take the gypsies, and we're going to get rid of them. Oh, by the way, we're going to take the whole Jewish population, and we're going to get rid of them.
Exactly. Well, here's a really interesting one. You do know that Gateshead, we have the largest Orthodox Jew population outside of Israel in Gateshead. Now, I do not believe that is perchance. I believe it has something to do with this. Absolutely.
Gateshead is where they put this system in, correct?
It's where they put the system in Gateshead Borough. We've got the largest Orthodox Jew population outside of Israel, which like I said before, I believe it's got something to do with this. And I also absolutely believe it's the same ideological principle to be, this is the final solution. 5G, without a doubt, will kill everything. We have to stop it at all costs. And it's all integrated with these technological advances that have been brought to the market without any. I saw an electric car in Sweden, a video of an electric car blow up. I'll tell you now, a terrorist bomb, a terrorist organization would be absolutely proud if they could get a weapon like that in a street, stress the battery so that it blew up. This blew up. It blew a bus up. It blew other vehicles up in its near locality. Obviously, a fully charged lithium-ion battery are pretty explosive. And this thing blew up. And not only that, lithium-ion, once you've exploded one of these batteries, that then leaves what's called a hazmat area. So you've got a hazard materials issue going on. The cleanup for that, the correct cleanup, would run into the hundreds of millions of pounds, because that material would explode, go all over. It is extremely toxic. And we've got government agencies across the West forcing this electric car technology that not only potentially can be a weapon system, it can, by the way, controlled in the wrong hands, can be used as a weapon system, especially autonomous systems. But the people who are driving them, has anybody warned them about the health effects, the detrimental health effects from electric motors, and especially at speed? Obviously, when you're travelling 5 miles an hour, everybody remembers the old milk floats where they had electric batteries. They were doing 3 and 4 miles an hour. These vehicles are supposed to be on motorways travelling at 50 or 60 miles an hour. I can tell you now, the radiation in that cabin, it would be absolutely appalling to put a child in one. Has anybody warned anybody? Has anybody warned anybody LED streetlights? Has anybody warned
Okay. I think I've got the picture. Because I couldn't quite understand, why do you want all these autonomous cars? But now my military mind's coming in. I'm going like, wow, brilliant. You're going to take all of these bombs that are now being controlled by a 5G system that, is burning out your retinas, but let's not worry about that. They'll fix that enough so that you'll only go blind in a few years and you won't realize it's happening right now. They'll tweak that because they want these bombs out there so that if in some area they decide, we're getting screwed here, we're going to go into revolt, well, all these little cars sitting around, all of a sudden start blowing up. Because there is good indication and, in fact, secure science behind the fact that the smart meters in Paradise, California, were blowing up because they were targeted. In other words, we got these people's homes all wired with a weapon right now. Because my partner, Derek Condit, as a matter of fact, we just replayed that show, he had his smart meter start on fire. Okay, all of a sudden, boom, boom. Now he's got power to the house. The smart meter is burning. The fire department gets there and they said, well, yeah, and they take a thermal reading to see how much heat is building up in and around this. Because even though he had disconnected from, he pulled the fuses in the main box, he still has got power in the house. And even though the smart meter is melting, they still got power in the house. And the fire department is taking readings and they're going, well, you've only got a few minutes before this house erupts into fire. And Derek's going, well, do something. Well, we can't do anything. It's being fed by the electric pole. And we have to get a power person here to cut this. Now, this is where it gets really suspicious to me. Because he lives in Darrington, Washington, which is it's only a small little town. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, it just so happens that within 5 minutes of this thing exploding, that you all of a sudden have somebody from the power company show up with a lift truck, puts himself up there, cuts the main wire, stopping and saving Derek's house. But my question was, I kept asking Derek, where did this guy come from? Well, nobody knows. I said, and he was there within 5 minutes? I said, maybe 10 minutes? And he said, no, he was right there, almost just behind the fire department. Okay, now how the hell did this guy know? Because back in the main station, they said, oh, Derek Condit's house just started burning because the smart meter went off. They have got this all so that they can see which smart meters are blowing up, and they can definitely blow them up.
Excellent. Absolutely. Well, SMART Secret Militarized Armaments and Residential Technology. That's what SMART stands for.
Say that again?
SMART stands for Secret Militarized Armaments and Residential Technology.
Can you explain that phrase? I'm afraid to ask.
SMART stands for Secret Militarized Armaments and Residential Technology. That's what SMART stands for. SMART, anything smart, it's all off the battle space. All these technologies, everything doesn't matter. It's a chipset, whether it's a piece of equipment. I mean, your smart TV's there to spy. Your smart equipment, your smartphone's basically a weapon system. I can blow it up in your pocket, by the way. Don't put them next to your heart. Very, very dangerous. In fact, there's some quite interesting technologies that, let's not talk about them today, that you can use from smart meters. I always giggle because I've got to have a smartphone, you know. They won't allow me. I mean, I used to have a 6210 Nokia. Loved it. And they just do not like me using normal these, you know, the cheapy $10 phone. They absolutely hate me using them. So I can't actually put a chip in an ordinary phone. I've got to have a smartphone. Well, I won't have them anywhere near us because I have actually seen them exploded. You know, where you stress the battery and explode them. So I've seen them actually go off. They're pretty nasty pieces of equipment. It's like carrying a grenade in your pocket and pulling the trigger. So you've got to be careful with them. So I always keep them as far away as possible. But that tells me something quite interesting. The weapon system's not fully operational yet. And that's why we're far too far ahead of their plan to roll this out.
Yes, and we have to stress that it's a system. Okay, yeah. All you have to do is unplug it, and that's the key here. Is that when they're doing chemtrails, you know, you'd have to blow up the planes or something. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But if you're talking in terms of a system like this, all you have to do is disconnect it. So it's not something that, you know, is a death sentence even if they got it together. But that's not the problem. This is the overstep that they are making. They are in our face. We're going to kill you. Okay. Now the problem is that they were already killing us with 4G, and the entire insect environment is crashed. There's at least 75% of the biomass of insects is gone. When it is all gone, we are gone within 4 years because everything hinges on the insects. So they're going to kill us one way or the other. But this overstep that they made with pushing this 5G the way they did is causing us to awaken in a way that we weren't awake before. It was like taking a frog and putting it in a cold pan of water and putting the heat up with 4G. Right? Yeah. And now you're going to take the frog and you're going to throw him on the coals. Well, that frog is going to know immediately that he's burning. And that's the difference between the 4G killing spree they were on and the 5G. And the 5G is so fast that nobody is going to be able to question it. And I dare anybody to look at that particular video that you showed and see the lack of life in it. Sorry, Michael. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's okay, Nancy. Thank you. You know, what you're talking about, the overreach that they did, it's kind of a classic historical pattern of tyrannical forces. You go back through the centuries, you know, it is that arrogant overreach that over and over again. I mean, look at the Easter Rising in 1916, you know, failed rebellion, but the overreach in the hanging of the Irish, you know, Ireland went up in flames as a result of that. It was the overreach that triggered it. And again, here, you know, you look at the American Civil Rights Movement, you know, the same thing, the naked tyranny that was on display, you know, in the South in the 60s when Dr. King was doing his civil rights campaigns. And again, here we have the same thing. It's just finally been exposed. It is unignorable. And the thing that I'd like to just for us to focus on for a second is you're talking about, we use the word monsters. And we're asking the question, how can they not know that this is going to kill them? And then you point to eugenics. Oh, they want to get rid of, the old people, the disabled, the less fit, or whatever targeted ethnic group they might want if this is, a continuation of a Nazi agenda. But then we have all of the people who have buried their heads in the sand, don't want to look at the moral implications, are buying the whole conspiracy theorist BS that, the hard science that these so-called conspiracy theorists are bringing out. Oh, it's just pseudo, don't talk to me, because I have much too comfy a gig working for the cabal, working, to tamp down the information. And I just don't want to know. Now, does that make me morally culpable? Well, yeah, to a certain extent it does. But I think we need to be careful about demonizing, all the people in the gray area as monsters. Okay, are they moral weaklings? Are they greedy? Are they stupid, arrogant, ignorant? Yes, those are not prosecutable crimes. But then at the upper levels, of the elite people who know the whole picture, and there's compartmentalization. I mean, that. Nancy, I'm sure, silos of knowledge where one branch of the military doesn't talk to the other, doesn't know the big plan. But at the upper levels, there are, the controllers who do know the big picture, who are content with the mass murder. And I think, when we are alerting people to all of these realities, we need to somehow, as Mark says, restoring the rule of law. Well, when there is evidence, when it can be prosecuted, when people can be brought to justice, that's where we can avoid the hysteria that comes into play when people get scared and start to demonize whole classes of people as monsters. Well, then, then we're right back in the Nazi camp. And, whole classes of people are being demonized as, the evil agents of the cabal, when maybe they're just stupid or greedy, or where there are crimes, let them be prosecuted. I just wanted to touch on that briefly because it's a complex area. It's an area that I've been focused on a lot for the last 6 years with a campaign to create an enforceable international human rights court.
Well, I think that Mark pointed it out because he said there was one police officer who wouldn't follow the orders to make him the bad guy. That this guy stood up in integrity. There are numerous people out there. I mean, if I let anybody think that I think that the person that's reading the electric meter is part of this, no. I think that they have been BS'd. That the entire manipulation of our minds to think that we can trust these people in authority is what the problem is. We have to trust ourselves. We have to come together as a unified humanity, just like they're trying to do with the Save Us Now program. Let's come together in a worldwide party. Never mind nation, never mind party. Humanity stepping up and saying, no, we're not going to do this. And once there's enough of us standing up, those people who do know the truth but who are terrified of what would happen to them, like, thank God for Mark. He knew what he was getting into, or maybe not, but he probably did, and he did it anyway for the sake of humanity. And right now, I'm going to take us a little break here. It's only 4 minutes, but let's just take a break. And it's Natalie Rise, and it's a great song I picked out, not knowing I was going to lead into it that way. It's called One People, and we'll be back in just over 4 minutes. And we are live.
All right, we are back on Radio 5G. This is Michael Henry Dunn with my co-host Nancy Hopkins, and we're talking to Mark Steele. And we're just touching on the question of who knows what at what levels, and how we can remember that there are many good people out there who can be woken up and who can become familiar with the ways in which 5G is a deadly threat to the web of life and how we can combat it. So just coming back in for our second hour here. Welcome back, Mark. Are we there?
I'm here. Is Mark there?
Yeah,
Mark?
I'm here, Mike.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Great. So, yeah, can we pick up the thread? I think, Nancy, you were in mid conversation when you needed to take the break on this.
Well, I basically had said what I want to say, that they have forced us into a new paradigm of reality. You know, this is not just America or Britain. I mean, this is the world. And humanity has got to realize that there are evil. I mean, it goes back to the question of good and evil. You know, what's this bet between God and Satan? You know, you're betting on which way we're going to go. Well, you know, push has become shove. We're at a point now that not only do we have to decide, are we going to go with evil or are we going to go with good, but we have to decide, are you going to fight? Are you going to stand up? Are you going to stand up for yourself, for your children, for the planet, for the bugs that are dying? Are you going to stand up and are you going to demand that you go back to playing the rules as the rules were meant to be played? Somebody's got a mic open. We've got to be able to perceive, as I think that Mark is making a great case here, that we can do it, and you are too, Michael, within the concept of a law that is there. The problem is that these people don't pay any attention to the law. And just because there's a law does not make it moral. Because they tell you that you have to put these, you have to allow, like in Florida, I have to allow one of these things if they want to put it right outside my door. I have to allow it because the law says, well, it's an immoral law. It's an inhumane law. And I guarantee you, one would not be put on my property without me going to jail.
Yeah.
And that's where we all have to get.
Yeah, exactly. And at the 5G-KNOW.com website, on the page for 5G links, effective action against 5G, right here in the state of New Mexico, where I happen to be sitting this morning, there is in the city of Santa Fe a court action against the city of Santa Fe for cooperating with the FCC in superseding the rights of local governments, municipalities, state governments. It's an unconstitutional power grab by the FCC to make it impossible for local governments to prevent the placement of these small 5G cell towers, you know, every 800 feet throughout your neighborhood. And that's the kind of action that we need to alert people that they can take. We've got a lot of other links. Save Us Now is prominent among them there, Mark, just to let you know. On our 5G-KNOW.com website. We want to serve as a hub for the science and the activism both, so that people can know what 5G is, know what the effects are, and also can be directed to the best action they can take in their area. What are the most effective actions that are being taken across the board, hopefully across the world, to stop this rollout?
And we should point out that anybody that has a local group that's trying to organize, or you are organized, please come and register with us so that other people in your state can know who you are, so that we can help bring people to your group. And so just contact us, please. And if you know of somebody, you know, we've got to come together in some kind of centralized thing, and we don't want to control it. We just want to be a hub of information so that, you know, Nancy goes, where in the state of Florida is somebody working on the anti-5G, you know, and then we know. So if you are an activist, please just sign up with us so that other people can find you.
That's really important. You know, people have to understand. Look, the internet is our adversary's battle space. But if you want to talk about prophecy, we use that tool to turn against them. All right. So the weapon that's being used, basically the internet, the weapon to down sort of sensitize people to what's going on. Right. We have to turn that around. We have to use that weapon in our favor. And how we do that, exactly as you just said, Nancy, we have to get people to get engaged. The Save Us Now party, very important. It's a political movement across the world, by the way. And this is a paradigm shift in the political movement. We have no left or right. We have no red or blue. We are humanity. God put man on this earth, mankind, right, in all his colours, guises, political ideologies, whatever. That's what mankind is about. So why would we want to divide ourselves, or was that division actually something that was a bit of a trap that was laid for us? The rule of law is absolutely crucial in this, and that is for the reason that the rule of law must be predicated on the betterment of mankind, nothing else. Once we get to grips with that, that's when we can really start to see the change in mankind, where mankind will move on. Everybody that listens to this, Nancy's exactly correct. We've got to be able to reach out to people, and that's why we need people to get in contact so that we can then put people together in groups. One of the things with our adversaries' battle space, so your Facebooks, your social medias, they are specifically developed and designed to keep us apart. So people who are like thinking, people who are like mine. I had a lady from Nottingham. She was frantic that nobody she was speaking to wanted to talk to her about 5G or the dangers of LED streetlights. She joined the movement, and obviously once we got her contact details, there was a half a dozen people within a couple of streets of her that were and now they've got a proper little cell of resistance in that area. So obviously, getting your names out there. Don't worry about if somebody's going to come. Look, 5G is going to kill everything. It is killing everything. It is absolutely an existential threat to mankind and to the earth. It's time for fight back. In our local authority, what actually happened, and this was really interesting, they started off, I was telling people, they'll start chopping the trees down, you'll start to see bird numbers collapse. We went from, where you saw a few small birds, we don't see any now, we don't see any flying insects at all. I'd actually sort of prophesized this to people. So consequently, when it started to happen, it started to resonate. People started to think, hang on a minute, that guy, everybody said he was a crackpot. Everybody said he didn't know what he was talking about. But you only have to go out now and look at the trees. You see the bark breaking from the trees because the trees act as an earth. They have to chop the trees down if they're going to gas you, if they're going to gas us with this energy. Because obviously you can charge air, and you can charge air, positively charged air. It's basically gassing you. It'll kill you slowly. It's part of the kill grid. But one of the problems that they have from that, let's say it's what's called soft kill, it's trees. Trees are our lifeblood. And so consequently, if they chop them down, they have to chop them down enough so that they don't actually take the energy to ground. If they don't take the energy to ground, it's difficult for them to scan you in your home. It's difficult for them to target you because obviously you're a biological structure. These signals in the sub-gigahertz range pass directly through you. They do damage you, but they do travel through you. The trees take that energy to ground, so they've got to chop the trees down. So the energy becomes more, there's more of it. And what it actually can do, it then starts to positively charge the air. Positively charged air is basically gas. So gassing you with noxious air to change the constituent parts of air. Some of the equipment that I've seen, and I've had images sent to me from the USA, they are molecular reactors. Now, where we have in the UK, I haven't seen any molecular reactors in the UK yet. What I've seen is very sophisticated target acquiring systems. In the US, I see reactors. Those reactors will change the constituency of air and they will gas populations. I know them as reactors because obviously I invented a couple a few years ago. believe it or not, I mean, this is unbelievable. I get a very high-powered person in America, not mention any names, sends me an email and says, can you have a look at these? Because we know that they're not telecoms, but they're being put up on these telecoms assets, and we need to find out what they really are. So believe it or not, I mean, a few years ago, I was involved in a carbon and capture. I was working for one of the larger oil and gas companies, and I'd been sent on an errand to Leeds Armory to do a conference on carbon capture and storage. When I got there, I realised that the whole thing was a scam, and I thought, hang on a minute, I knew about covalent bonds, I knew about frequencies and how to disassociate bonds at certain frequencies, and I thought, hang on, I wonder if I could invent a way of breaking carbon dioxide. So anyway, spent a couple of weeks at Strathclyde University. We did a feasibility study. We basically built a little bit of a rig to test something. It worked pretty well, and I thought, oh, that's interesting. I'll patent it. So anyway, I patented this, what I believe would be a molecular reactor. Right, so we could put it in a flue and break carbon dioxide, actually disassociate the bond. Anyway, we went out to try and raise the cash. We couldn't raise the money, and obviously within the first 12 months, you can actually put a patent to one side without it being put of public knowledge. So that's what actually happened. We parked that off to one side, because obviously without raising significant amounts of money to do the full development, it would have been a waste of time. But I knew what they looked like. So when this person sent me the images in America, obviously with these big cooler, they look like radiators, looks like a fridge with a radiator system. And it's basically, when you heat them up, they act as a flue. So it actually sucks the air in through the bottom, blows out the air through the top. When the air comes through the top, depending on the frequency, and if it's 60 gigahertz, I can disassociate an oxygen molecule. And if I disassociate an oxygen molecule, you get oxygen atoms, and those atoms attach quite quickly to other oxygen molecules. The next minute you've got O3, and O3 will kill all life at 50 parts per million. And I've actually seen images of what I believe to be absolutely molecular reactors hanging on telegraph poles in the USA as we speak, and also downtown New York.
How many ways do they have to kill us?
Yeah, and the question arises, I mean, in terms of the agenda and the rollout and the intensification of it, obviously they can't kill all of us. Yes, there's a depopulation agenda, but they also need us, as a dumbed down, debt enslaved, cooperative, docile race. So the idea that even though we know, the insect life is collapsing, the bird life is collapsing, the bee colony collapse is going to be deadly to humanity in pretty short term, you can't help but ask the question, okay, what exactly is their rollout, assuming that this is, I question whether or not this is some kind of monolithic plan of a unified command structure. They're competing with each other. There's cabal factions competing with each other. China is a wild card. Russia is a wild card. I caution us against, when we talk about they, what are they going to do to us? Well, there is no unified monolithic command structure to they, as far as I can see. And, I think, Nancy, you might be able to weigh in on this a little bit in terms of giving us, what do you, with your intuition and your information, see as, the actual rollout and what we can look forward to, how we can do our most effective action, given what the big geopolitical picture is likely to be in terms of their competing factions. China has, through Huawei, I think it's called, the company that's rolling out 5G in China. They have one agenda. Then you have Trump in the U.S. saying, oh, we're going to roll out 5G, but now we're going to nationalize 5G in the U.S. There's people in the FCC who are up in arms about Trump saying that. There's, pro and con about what his attempt to nationalize 5G means. Does it mean that he actually wants to take back control of it so that he's stopping the agenda, or has he been bought out and he's just, pushing the big corporate agenda? And then, there's the whole question of, where Russia and China are fitting into this picture. I know this is a lot to bring onto the table right now, but I just am cautious about the tendency to talk about they as if there is some unified monolithic command structure there. So I put that on the table and love to hear your thoughts. Nancy?
Can I answer that one for you, Michael? Michael?
Yeah.
Michael can answer. I'm going to tell you who they are. They are the people that sit back that know there's something wrong. They are the people who acquiesce to this ideology, and they acquiesce to it because they know in their heart that they are responsible for something that's not correct. I mean, in our near locality, just to take it as a very small part of it, the people who are chopping down the trees, the people who are decimating the tree population in the UK currently know there's something wrong. For instance, the Woodland Trust, there's a large charity here called the Woodland Trust. Somebody questioned them and put a post up of trees being chopped down in a cityscape not far from here. The Woodland Trust came back immediately and said, it's not 5G. 5G's got nothing to do with it. That's just a conspiracy theorist. Well, that is there, because whoever crafted that document, what I'm going to tell you, this is a fight between good and evil. God and the devil have got a fight on their hands. This is the final solution. This isn't about any agenda. This isn't about leaving 500 million left. That it's been predicted there's 500 million going to be left on the planet, and where somebody somewhere is going to be one of them. This is not about that. This is terraforming. 5G will terraform the Earth. It will turn it into Mars. Mars may have been an Earth planet at one time, and I've got no doubt this is the same ideology. If you've ever seen these direct energy weapon systems, the over-the-horizon weapon systems, the one that they've built in Gated, I can destroy part of New York with it. There's 31,875 elements. We've got a character who's building satellites to put up into the sky as we speak, and those ground-based weapon systems can be reflected off those satellites to a city near you. That's what this weapon system's like, and the weapons platform. 5G is about the killing off all of humanity. No one's getting saved. I keep hearing this, and this 21 agenda, this 30 agenda, it is absolute BS. If I tell you this will kill every piece of living biology on the planet, and anybody, I was talking to some military guys, US-based military guys with pretty high security clearance. There are underground bases being built, supposedly for the elites to travel underground to be saved. Well, I'm going to tell you, you crack on, because if you think for 1 minute that the ideology that's going to kill off the whole of humanity is going to actually save you going underground, you've got another thing coming, because you're the target. This is a property grab. It's the property grab of the earth between good and evil. You have to remember, the devil hates all of mankind and anything God created. Well, God created the earth. The devil doesn't like it, and he's going to have it back. So anybody that works in this agenda, the ones that either are a part of it, the ones that know about it, the ones that acquiesce by keeping their head down, it's going to kill you. This will kill you. I had a really good laugh at it. I did a conference in London. There was quite a lot of people there, and there'd be quite a lot of spooks there as well. Intelligence groups. They come and sniff around and see what people are saying. And at the end of near the end of the talk, I said, there's a lot of intelligence agencies in here. We had a bit of a nod, and there was a few there Not that you could tell, because these people dress up. They've normally got long hair, tattoos on their necks and stuff like that. You'd never be able to spot them. I mean, I can, because they normally look, they're overdressed for the part, you know what I mean? Anyway, and I said, the really interesting thing about 5G, they are the target. I know this weapon, and I make no mistake about it. The first people 5G will attack, there'll be an AI system, and it will attack military bases, underground bunkers, military personnel, the security services, the Pentagon. It'll take the Pentagon out. It'll take all command structures out. The people that think it won't, the people that are building it today, fools, but you always get them. This will attack them first. It then attacks us first and then takes down everything. There's going to be nothing left. That's why do you think they're building PV farms, wind turbines. It's so that nobody can switch the electricity off when it comes. The nuclear power stations, if I was going to tell you this one, because we've got to talk about it, nuclear power stations, we've now got Hunterston B, right, where there's an issue with a concrete bund wall. The nuclear reactor in British Columbia, the smart meters are attacking the bund wall and breaking down the infrastructure. So the pulsed modulated radiation from the smart meters is breaking down the fabric of buildings, nuclear power stations.
Wait a minute. You're saying that they're actually breaking the concrete block from the radiation?
Absolutely.
Oh my God!
You fatigue. You know when the bridge collapsed in Italy. You know there was a big bridge collapse in Genoa.
Well, this is. I'm sorry, but what you're saying is that the same technology that took down the Twin Towers, which was a direct energy weapon that caused a vibration in the buildings that caused molecular decomposition. The molecules lost their composition. So instead of seeing, 110 buildings fall and then stack up on top of each other, you see a building turn to dust and you have a debris pile that's seven stories high. How in the world do you think that happened? So you're saying that now they're targeting the nuclear plants with the same thing to cause molecular decomposition of the concrete that is blocking and protecting humankind, nature, from all of these nuclear reactors?
Absolutely. Sub-gigahertz travel through concrete like a knife through butter. I mean, you can't stop it. I can look in the urban environment with about 15 kilometres with a 25 milliwatt scanner. So, I mean, that's not a very powerful scanner. And we're talking about, you're talking about cityscapes with thousands and thousands of these smart meters. And what actually happens, you get what's called cross-wave frequencies. These are uncontrollable, uncalculable, pulse-modulated systems, right, that can break down. See, one of the things with molecular structures, like molecular bonds, covalent bonds, have got a key to break them. Yeah? So you can actually, if you just hit them at the right frequency, yeah, you can disassociate the bond. That's a really clever thing. Now, if I set up a couple of thousand transmitters, then obviously I'm going to start to see some cross waves that could get very, very close to those frequencies, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely.
All of a sudden you've got hundreds of thousands of these transmitters, and you've got a nice little nuclear power station there. So not only am I pouring energy into your nuclear pile, which you haven't calculated, because the guys that designed these didn't calculate, and they didn't calculate the stress mechanics of the steel infrastructure, the pump systems, or the core, the reactor core. It hasn't been calculated. All of a sudden, I'm just changing the whole calculation there by pouring a load of energy, and that's never been expected before, never been calculated in the design or the build. And then all of a sudden, right, you start breaking down the materials, and you start hitting some resonant frequencies. You can see where we're going here, can't you? So you see the people that could think that they're going to go underground and come back in a couple of 100 years. When that reactor core melts down, just make sure you're not underneath it or anywhere near it when it hits the water table, because the water that comes out will be absolutely toxic for the next X number 100,000 years.
I'm
All right,
sure
so
we're doomed now. I know we can't. We're doomed. Listen, let's talk about the Save Us Now program. What can you give us the details or delineate your basic philosophy and how you see yourself organizing? Give us more of a good story, how people are coming together.
Oh, do you want us to tell you how we're fixed? We don't lose this, by the way. Don't get to, if everybody's getting a bit depressed and want to go on the drink, listen to what I've got to say now. Save Us Now came to me, right, through God. This has all been prophesied. Now, I didn't know this, by the way. I didn't know this at all. I didn't know about what my role was in this. I now know absolutely. I've had somebody contact me a couple of weeks ago. I was absolutely blown away by what they were telling me and what they were telling me about what I was like when I was a child. So this all came to me as very new. I knew that God had already passed this over to me. This isn't the only person that said something to me that has made a great deal of sense. And obviously, I was never a religious person. I did go to church, totally rallied against the whole thing. I was not that. Right, but I'm going to tell you now what's happened to me in the last 2 or 3 years. God holds my hand. God gave me those symbols. God said to me, take those Roscarian symbols. They were given to man. They're not the devils. They're not the Illuminatis. They are mankind's. So the sun rising. The sun is the sun. We know who the sun is. Yes? So the sun rising, waking humanity from their slumber, from their sleep. God gave me all of those symbols and signs. And it just came in it came in a vision, and we writ it up, and it just, the whole thing. And then what happened, since then, I still didn't think the significance of it, right? Apart from I knew the fact that God was holding me hand in relation to us. I mean, people have to understand, the test facility for this and the epicenter of this is Gateshead. I can tell you why and how I know that. Gateshead Council, now you've got to remember, Gateshead Council is a Mickey Mouse, which I mean, that in English terms means a very mediocre type of operation, yeah? They're a very mediocre operation, all right? Gateshead Council orchestrated the event to stop Donald Trump coming to the United Kingdom. Gateshead Borough Council is also the borough where the largest Orthodox Jew population is in existence outside of Israel. So you've got this absolutely small, insignificant council who've orchestrated the resistance across all councils and government to stop Donald Trump coming here. And this is the council that is rolling out equipment that can murder and can kill those Orthodox Jews. And just by chance, I could have lived 5 miles away from this area and I wouldn't have known. But I live right on top of it, and I am, without doubt, one of the leading experts in the world on this subject. And the reason for that is because I've invented a number of products to mitigate. And not only that, I'm a very abrasive, upfront type of person. So not the shying away scientific type who possibly wouldn't want to, make a noise about something and not really be bothered about the consequences. So I've got all of those attributes, and Gateshead Council have laid us a 24-carat gold runway. We know what's going on now. The world's woken up. God most certainly is behind this. If I was going to sit down and tell you all about the cases, I will one day, but we'll have to wait after, because obviously it's prejudicial to the appeal and the civil court hearing. But I can tell you what my legal team said. Mark, you're an absolute terror. And I said, it's not me, honest. It's the big fella. He's organising the whole thing. And they are absolutely 100%, because they've looked at the evidence, right? And they are absolutely 100% on board.
Now, I want to talk about the symbols, but not here. Because there's a whole bunch of things happening with symbols, okay, that I think you might find very interesting. But my question here is, so God said to you, hey, let's build a political party, or did the political party already sort of semi come together on its own?
No, we couldn't get any political traction at all. And obviously, the political system, what you do, you play one off against the other. I know how that whole divisive thing goes. So what you do, you take a bit of information to one side, let them set themselves upon them. And what we realised was that wasn't working. They were all in it together. So that we thought, hang on a minute, that's a bit interesting. What's going on here? There's a lot more to this than what we thought. And we had the idea that we're going to have to do some political canvassing. Well, obviously, going out on the street and canvassing, if you're not part of a political movement, you can that can get very, very interesting. And we believe that having some political cover, because obviously being a political prisoner, I think would carry with it probably some interest from other parts of the world. So we thought about that, and we just could not. We thought of all different ideas, symbology and all the rest of it, didn't know anything about it, and basically we come up with some really ridiculous things. And then what happened, I had this vision. I went to bed one night, had a dream, woke up the next morning and just knew what it was all going to be. And I thought, Christ, this is unbelievable. Knew there was something very strange about it. And then what happened, only 2 or 3 weeks ago, so we've been on this journey for a while now, and obviously the case has led me to believe there's something a lot more, let's say, spiritual going on. And then I had a lady contact me just a couple of weeks ago and said, do you know who you are? And she said, I need to talk to you. And it was about the sun rising and about the prophecy of what's going on today. And I just totally blew it away. And anyway, she then showed me some signs, which a very good friend of mine, I've known this guy for 20 years. He's a very honourable chap, not the type of person at all who would ring you up and go, I need to show you something. He's been seeing all these visions, and he'd written down a number of these symbols and signs that he's seeing. And anyway, this lady's this was a few months ago. This lady then contacts me, tells me about this prophecy. We then get on Skype because you cannot use a mobile phone very much. We can then go on Skype. We're Skyping it, and she turns her camera towards these signs and symbols and says, "This is what I'm seeing. It's the same as what my very good friend's seeing. Very similar symbols." And this guy hasn't got it, but however, she's got a background. She understands some of the ancient signs, some of the ancient symbols. She's a lot more in tune with that. And I'm like, this is just too much. It's unbelievable. And she starts to tell us all this stuff, which I've, because obviously I've got a scientific background, material sciences, and obviously all the weapon systems, the inventions. I like to see hard evidence. Well, this is hard evidence. She showed me on a picture the images that a friend of mine showed me, and then she started telling me that ancient Hebrew. So the ancient Hebrew symbols, and I'm like absolutely totally blown away. She then tells us about the prophecy, the end of times prophecy. Tell people to go and have a look at it. It's quite interesting. And what my role
okay, two things. First off, I was contacted by a Russian scientist, Sophia Blanc, and she has symbols that she has gotten that she feels very compelled to present. I'm going to send you a copy of those symbols, and let's see if they in any way, shape, or form match up with the ones you've already got, because you've got two sources of symbols. If we can put in a third source and they match up, well, dang. But what is the prophecy? What's the end-time prophecy that she specifically is referencing?
Well, what I'm going to tell you, and I'll tell everybody now so you're not all depressed, God doesn't lose. We can't lose. And what you people have to remember, the people we save, right, the people that can be saved are the people that wake up. The people that don't wake up, we can't save everybody. Can't save everybody. That's what the prophecy says. But we will save quite a large proportion of the people who've woken up.
Yeah, well, that's where I feel we are. This is the kind of work we're here to do. That there are people, you might say, who are in the middle, on the fence, who can be woken up. There's going to be people at either extreme. Obviously, on the people perpetrating this are more or less morally lost, and then there's a huge portion of the population that is ignorant, dumbed down, and some of those folks we are not going to be able to reach. But there is a huge broad band in the middle that is waking up, and these are the people that that we are here to speak to, and the divine guidance I have certainly felt very much in my life, and I know Nancy has as well. And I have the same belief you do, Mark, that the light does win. God does win in this. And across religious divides, there is our common humanity and our love for our children, for the planet, for the beauty and the light and the joy that when we have enough freedom, make up what we used to call human life. What my friend Rob refers to as organic intelligence can and will integrate artificial intelligence in the service of humanity. That OI, organic intelligence, is ultimately going to win the day because we are guided by what he calls DI, in other words, divine intelligence. And so that's the dynamic that's happening here. And I'd love to see us just be able to tune people in not only to the political action they can take, because what you are already doing with Save Us Now as a party is exactly one way we need to go. Then there's also the legal criminal suits and action that can be taken at 5g-know.com. That's what we're waking people up to. But it's got to be this integrated organic intelligence asking guidance from divine intelligence to integrate artificial intelligence into the service of humanity. Because we're not Luddites here trying to, go back to just horse and carriages and letter carriers. We can turn artificial intelligence to the service of humanity, but we have to do that while tuning in to divine guidance. And so I love it that we are integrating all of that picture here in this conversation.
Brilliant, yeah. Well, I totally agree with that, and definitely organic intelligence. What I'm going to say, these potentially very powerful, signal systems in air, so energy signals. That's what microwave radiation in air. It's basically just a digitized signal in an air form. These signals are extremely dangerous to life. They're absolutely not attuned. They're very aggressive in basically break down the cellular function. So AI definitely in an organic form, but most certainly not. What they're coming at you with today is an aggressive, an attack on biology, an attack on humanity, an attack on life. That's what they're coming at you with today.
Yeah, and when we're talking about political action, and with Save Us Now as a political party, I'm really activated by the possibility that here in the U.S., where things are so divided politically, and as I say, there's this circus, which is like a diversion to divide red against blue, left against right, and there's this intense polarization. And it just amazes me, to see that behind the scenes, what's going on with all of us distracted, by the polarization. Meanwhile, the world's going to hell in a handbasket. And if you could simply wake people up to our common values, all the things we share, right, left, blue, red, we want a good future for our children. We want the earth to be green. We want people to be able to practice their religion in peace. We want, free enterprise to be able to flourish without, elite corruption, and putting people in debt slavery. These are just core things that when I look around the U.S., and I see, if you look at half of the people, who voted for Donald Trump would have voted for Bernie Sanders. I mean, there's a broad, shared spectrum on the political who are not going to be divided by personality politics, but waking these folks up and giving them just enough of the so-called conspiracy theory stuff to wake them up. This is a delicate balance, and it's something that I'm very excited about bringing forward. I'm going to be out on the road sharing this in an inspiring way with people that I believe can cut across the political divide. It's that great quote from Abraham Lincoln, when we wake up to the better angels of our nature, to those things that unite us as human beings, then we can step outside the circus. We can step outside the personality politics and demand that our sovereignty be honored and that the rule of law can have meaning. It's a complex situation. I'd love to hear Nancy's thoughts on it in terms of what's playing out in the U.S. right now. I just wanted to share that. So thank you very much, Mark.
Well, let me just say this, okay? Because I feel that we've already had indications of where humanity really is. And I'm going to point to the Occupy movement. There were millions of people who just went out and got together. They didn't know the details that we know, but they knew there was something terribly wrong. Yeah. Now, the only thing that stopped them was the winter. But those people are still out there. Those are the people that voted Donald Trump in. There is a massive amount, the yellow vest people all over Europe, there's a massive amount of people worldwide who are ready for this.
Absolutely. Michael, you said a really interesting thing, waking people up. Well, that was the whole point of the sun. When the sun rises, that's what wakes humanity up. And that's why God gave me that sign.
Yeah, well, we're waking them up one by one as we can here, and it's inspiring to me to know that this is the debut program of Radio 5G as a information hub in service to the whole awakening movement around what's going on, and to know that we're covering the whole picture, the scientific, the political, the spiritual. That's where the ultimate action is going to be. As my good friend Rob, I'm going to quote him again, said, the effects will be political, but the solution is spiritual. And that's really where it's a consciousness shift that will lead to an activism movement that will have the political effects we need and the restoration of our Mother Earth, that if we don't undertake it, we're done.
Yeah. Totally aligned with that, Michael.
Nancy, is there anything more you'd like to bring forward in terms of what you see can be possible politically?
Well, I want to go back to Save Us Now. Is there some place that people can go and look you up, your in political things they have platforms? I'm gonna make another statement here, so people can understand that yes, what we're saying is extraordinarily scary, but the reality is that they can't win if we come together. You know, there's such a minuscule amount of those people that are really evil. The rest of them are doing evil acts. Okay, because they don't know better or they don't care or they, whatever. You know, I don't know what their excuses could be. But let's just assume that, you know, they're really good people in their hearts. They love their kids. They wouldn't do anything to hurt an animal. And if they really understood what the implications are here and they can grasp it, because we have cognizant dissonance occurring, that people can't really get their heads around how evil this is. But it's evil from the top, and then people doing evil things because they don't know the difference. Now, what we're offering here is something that has already been done. All right, in America, we had the Tea Party. Now, let's just go back and look at that little thing. That wasn't a platform thing. There weren't people saying, we want to do this and we want to do that. I can't even remember what Tea Party came from. But it was people that realized there's something wrong. There's something wrong. And so when you're in a state and as a human being and you know something is wrong, your tendency is not to go off by yourself. Your tendency is to come into a group. There's something wrong. What do we do? Right? Well, nobody had the real ability to explain to those people, the Tea Party, that this is what's wrong. Okay, so but the Tea Party went on, and within 18 months, they were an influence in the U.S. election for president, a big influence. 18 months, and then all of a sudden they disappeared. Where'd they go? They were taken over, you know, by people that drove them into the ground. So the situation with the Occupy movement is the same kind of thing. Something's wrong, and what did they do? They got together. Something's wrong. Now, if we can just, that's why I love the fact that, you know, they put the 5G out like they did. Because when I've known about it, but I thought I had at least until 2020, 2020, until they really started doing it. I thought I had a little time here. No, they'd been doing it, behind the scenes secretly, so that it's all over the United States. Derek Condit just made a 48,000-mile trip around 6 states, and as he drove along these highways, he was seeing the 5G system already in. Now, why would it be in an area that, you know, is in the western, desolate, not too many, you know, it's not the hub of you know, everything, but because they could put it in without anybody questioning it because nobody's seeing them. So they've got 48,000 miles already gridded with the 5G through 6 states, including California, Arizona, Washington, or I don't know all of them. But that's the reality that we're confronting. But the other reality is the reality that human beings are not going to lose this because why? We have God on our side. We have everything that is right on our side. We have life and love on our side. So don't get disheartened. What they've done is they forced us to come together. They forced humanity to come together.
Right, and here in this country, I believe, you know, that Americans are coming together, will come together. I mean, it comes back to our founding principles. If you look at the Declaration of Independence, you know, that all men are created equal, endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, among which are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and when any government becomes destructive of those ends, you know, it is the right of the people to create one that does support those ends. So, you know, this is Jefferson. This is, to me, you know, people will come to me and say, Michael, when did you go off the deep end and become a conspiracy theorist? And I said, you know, I'm actually still just a typical American. I just happen to value Thomas Jefferson and Abraham Lincoln and you know who George Washington truly was, and what my great grandfather who fought at Gettysburg and my dad who fought at Iwo Jima, you know, what America used to be and what we're based on. And I believe that, you know, that lives in the heart of most Americans still. I mean, I don't think it can be eradicated. And I think if we can only keep it simple enough, as you say, Nancy, you know, Occupy, you know, it bloomed and then it died. And the Tea Party bloomed and then it died. If we can stay focused on the essential values that unite us and face the threat that is in that's what's waking us up, as you say. On one level, thank God for it, because it's going to wake us up in time, the 5G rollout. that if we can do that, I believe a really powerful political movement can be created, is already being created in this country, where we're not going to be co-opted, we're not going to be taken over and diffused and faded out the way the Tea Party movement was, the way Occupy was. But we're going to have to keep it simple. We're going to have to focus on the rule of law and waking people up to the threat, putting the tools in people's hands, and also acknowledging divine guidance. I'm going to be unabashed about it. People can believe what they want, but that's a powerful reality. So that's my speech.
Mark, we're almost at the end of the show. Would you like to say one more thing to the people? And also, please, anytime you want to come on this radio show, anytime you have people that you think should be on this radio show, please send them our way.
Definitely. Well, just thanks for having me on. And unfortunately, the news that I give people, it is pretty upsetting to a lot. Like I said, I did a talk at one of the local universities. I had 2 scientists in tears. But unfortunately, it is the truth. We have to face up to the truth. But what you have to remember, and as Michael said before, and as you've said, we do have God behind us. I'm pretty sure that's the reason I'm here. In fact, without a doubt, it's the reason I'm here. It's the reason I knew what this technology was, because it was God that gave me the inventions, and I've got quite a few. I just get these ideas. I mean, where do they come from? It's not me. Anybody with the arrogance to think that you have an invention that's got something to do with you, I mean, it's ridiculous. Universal forces, we're here, we're basically a tool, we're a vessel, we're a spiritual vessel, and obviously we're just playing this thing out. We win. God never loses, but, unfortunately, there's going to be quite a lot of people who are going to suffer quite a bit, because unfortunately, over the last few years, we have turned away from the righteous path that was, laid out for us by God in our in us living on this planet, on this earth of ours, and we must certainly have to, take and empower ourselves as mankind against the powers of evil. And it is just, there. There's nothing there. It's an ideology. It's an ideology of badness and evil, and obviously, unfortunately, some people acquiesce to it and think that it's okay. Well, unfortunately, it's time to wind the clock back a little bit, because obviously, if we don't, people think that they can get away with it or not act appropriately within the law. We don't act in relation to this, and the people that don't act, I can tell you now, they will die. They will die. I've already, been told about the prophecy. We can't save everybody. The only people that can be saved are the ones that wake up, join the action.
Well, let's hope they all wake up. Michael, it's your turn to sign us off. We're a little late. Mark, thank you so very much. I can't tell you how much I am just thrilled with you visiting us and the message that we managed to get today. Michael?
Yeah, thanks so much, Mark. So glad to have had you with us. And so this is the wrap-up of the debut program of Radio 5G, which is a joint project of Cosmic Reality and the Sacred Academy of Geoenergetics. And find us on the web at 5G-know.com. That's 5G-know.com, which is the hub of information for the hard science and the activism to stop the 5G rollout and restore the planet. So thank you all for being with us, and be well, everybody. Bye for now.
Thank you for listening. May it be.
Let it be.